The night falls.
How do I kill him?
The moon rises.
No one knows how to kill Dracula.
The hunt begins.
Who's hunting whom?
Now, adventure has a new name. Van Helsing. On the DVD now.
Did you ever listen to the Monster Mash and think to yourself, boy, this sure would make for a great action film? Then do I have the movie for you. Welcome everyone to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about none other than the critically acclaimed masterpiece that is 2004's Van Helsing. I'm lying. First things first, I just wanted to say that I originally considered making this a Halloween video, seeing as it is quite the perfect Halloween watch, but it took me a while to get around to it, so here it is closer to Thanksgiving, because Van Helsing's really a movie you can watch any time of year. If you're watching this video, you're probably familiar with it, but Van Helsing is a 2004 Hollywood blockbuster that follows the adventures of Van Helsing, played by Hugh Jackman, a monster hunter who was sent out to Transylvania to take down the evilest of evils, Count Dracula. He is aided by a friar named Carl, who serves as the comedic relief, and Anna Valerius, one of the last descendants of a Romanian family dedicated to killing Dracula. She's played by Kate Beckinsale, best known for her role as the main lead in the Underworld movies. Van Helsing is essentially the Kingdom Hearts of Universal monster movies. It brings together Van Helsing, Dracula, Frankenstein, and werewolves all into one very goofy and over-the-top film. As a kid, I really loved this movie. I didn't really watch a lot of horror movies back then, but I did watch a lot of early 2000s action movies, more specifically superhero ones, and this is a film that definitely fits right into that category. On one hand, it's pretty cool seeing all of these classic monsters together in one movie. On another, Van Helsing is very much treated like a badass superhero, although at times he comes off more as Robin Hood inspired, especially with a friar that follows him around. But Van Helsing was not the first time that all of these classic Universal monsters had been put into one place. Children's Halloween specials aside, Universal had made quite a few films back in the 40s that featured the monsters crossing over, whether it be Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, House of Dracula, or Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, which is a strange title because they honestly meet a bunch of monsters in that one. What Van Helsing does different from those movies is that it is first and foremost an action film. But not just any action film, a big, dumb, expensive one that ended up costing $160 million, which doesn't seem like much today, but for its time, it was rare to have a movie cost so much. But then again, it's exactly the type of movie you'd expect from Stephen Sommers, director of the first two Brendan Fraser Mummy films. This movie's opening perfectly sets the silly tone, with a black and white recreation of Dr. Frankenstein creating his monster.
It's alive! It's alive!
Only to have Dracula appear, wanting to use his invention for evil, and an angry mob already waiting outside at Frankenstein's door. It's made even better by Igor showing up and just being like, "Sorry dude, Dracula actually pays me."
You have been so kind to me, Doctor. Caring, thoughtful, but he pays me.
The guy playing Dracula in this movie is Richard Roxburgh, and he plays the part so cartoonishly, it's pretty amazing, I have to say.
Have you no heart?
No! I have no heart! I feel no love! Nor fear! Nor joy! Nor sorrow! I am hollow.
I don't know at what point in history it became a rule that Dracula had to be as over the top as possible, but you know what? I'm not even mad. Something else that just becomes blatantly relevant throughout this movie is awful CG. I'm not the type of person who usually likes being overly critical of CGI, as it's a pretty useful tool in filmmaking, and a lot of work goes into those VFX, but I can't lie, a lot of these scenes look pretty bad, whether it be the brides of Dracula, the Wolfmen, or Frankenstein's monster swinging from a rope. The introduction of the title character of this film is through a battle with Mr. Hyde on the Notre Dame Cathedral. Why Quasimodo doesn't show up, I do not know. Mr. Hyde is meant to be an impressive effect, I assume, but he both looks and talks like Shrek. Like, I can't see this and not think Shrek.
Let's make it your decision, shall we?
Do let's.
Somebody wants to show me.
This is also where we get to see Van Helsing using some of his creative weapons. You see, even though this movie is supposed to take place in the 19th century, Van Helsing uses a lot of weapons that are borderline futuristic. It's almost steampunky in a way, if that's the right comparison. And I've gotta admit, though I absolutely love his crossbow, my favorite weapon he uses are those spinny blade things. Van Helsing really is a film set in its own fantasy world. It's one that I'd want to live in. I don't care if a vampire could drink my blood at any moment, at least I can say I was killed by a vampire. The CG may look atrocious at times, but I actually quite like the look of this film when it's relying on actual sets. Also, I'm a fan of Frankenstein's monsters design. He really does look like a man assembled from multiple rotting corpses, and the electricity on the back of his head is pretty neat. Now, if there's any reason for you to watch Van Helsing, it's for the action. Van Helsing is not some type of profound or clever movie. It's just a fun, dumb action movie with an anything-goes mentality. Van Helsing is one of those movies that feels like watching a kid play with action figures. Yes, there is a plot, but if you're watching this movie for the story, you're watching it for all of the wrong reasons. I'm not here to learn about Anna's family history, I just want to see Hugh Jackman as a sexy werewolf battling the monster version of Gary Oldman's Dracula. There's so much cartoony logic to this thing. Characters are constantly doing backflips and impossible feats of agility, and you know what? That's perfectly alright. It's exactly what I love about this movie. I think the main reason a lot of critics seem to hate this one is because there is absolutely no reason this thing should have cost so much to make, but I'm kind of glad that a film like this even exists. It also did surprisingly well in the box office. This was no box office bomb, so there was no reason there couldn't have been a sequel if Universal wanted it. Universal actually put a lot of money into this thing, past the film production itself. There were action figures, an animated prequel titled Van Helsing: The London Assignment.
The thrilling backstory leading up to the blockbuster movie event. Van Helsing: The London Assignment features the voice of Hugh Jackman.
This isn't over.
And a video game that was pretty much just Devil May Cry.
Now, evil has one name to fear. Van Helsing.
Plus, if you buy the DVD, you get a free demo of the first level on the OG Xbox. Remember the good old days when all you had to do to play a game was purchase a Van Helsing DVD? You know, instead of pre-ordering to unlock a demo, which kinda defeats the entire point. Yes, Van Helsing could have had a sequel, but we sadly never got one. I like to imagine what the sequel would have been. Maybe a crossover between Van Helsing, Imhotep, the Invisible Man, Phantom of the Opera, and The Bride of Frankenstein. Why not? Let's just throw everything into the kitchen sink. At the end of the day, Van Helsing is a stupid, stupid movie, but that doesn't stop it from being a lot of fun to a critic of very little brains like myself. There's a genuine love for classic horror movies in this one, even if it's portrayed in a goofier, more action-packed way. I don't know if I could ever really argue that Van Helsing is a good movie. I mean, Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy came out the same year, and that's a far better action horror film, but it's a fun time nonetheless, and one I think that a lot of people who don't mind schlockier movies will probably enjoy. Thank you to everyone who watched. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings on Van Helsing, and please feel free to check out the other videos on my channel, or don't. I have no control over you. You're a human being with free will. Goodbye.